All right, we are live. How's everybody doing? Sunday night football tonight should be a fun night to go over some bets because this might be a rough game. Not really sure what to expect yet. It's kind of an ugly game. But before we start, how you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Had a few games go way different than I thought they would. Denver, Kansas City. Had a few go exactly like I thought I would, but uh, just miss out by a half point here or there. And then had a few I was locked in on that did well. So no, I can't complain, man. How about you?
I'm all right. I mean, the article I put out was doing well, and then the 4 p.m. slate hit. I had Flowers receiving yards and Hollywood receiving yards. Neither guy goes over. Um, it was the Bateman game. It was kind of a quiet pass. It was just an ugly game. It's probably a game I should have stayed away from looking at it, but obviously I kind of thought I had a good read of it. Didn't though. But on the day was a kind of a mid fine day. But
Yeah,
I have a couple of bets that I really like in tonight's game, props especially. And then there's also NBA tonight, so I'll have a couple of those at the end. But we can start
great.
with we'll start with the Bears. They'll be without Nate Davis, their starting right guard. Braxton Jones is still out. He's the starting left tackle. So they've had a backup left tackle in for a majority of the year. And then I didn't get to see the injury report. I was rushing to set this up. Jaquan Brisker and Eddie Jackson were, let me check. They were questionable coming into the game. Both of them were dealing with illnesses, I think. There's been a couple teams in the NFL dealing with illnesses. The Mahomes and the Chiefs
Mm-hmm.
did, and the Mahomes and the Chiefs come out and look like trash. So it says Brisker's out. So Brisker's out. So they'll be just without one safety. Eddie Jackson, who's the better safety, will be playing, but they'll still be without one of their starting safeties, which will be tough for that team. So we'll start with the defense. I don't think they've really played awful all season. I think they started the year out really bad. It was a
Yeah.
big issue with the additions they had. Um, and I think they've been solid everywhere but the pass rush to this point. I think earlier in the year everything was off, but now like the past few weeks, I think they got like 3 sacks in the past 2 games, which isn't great. But they added the two linebackers, they added Edmonds and TJ Edwards, who improved from the beginning of the year. But at the beginning of the year, they were talking about these guys. They moved on from Roquan. They were talking about these guys like they were going to be the next big thing and moving on from Roquan because he wasn't a
Yeah.
scheme fit or whatever they wanted to say. And it was the complete opposite. But against the run, they've held Josh Jacobs last week to 35 yards on 11 carries. Madison the week before, 44 yards. Brian Robinson 2 weeks before that to 10 yards. So in those games, I mean, they're holding running backs low. I wouldn't expect a big rushing game from the Chargers, but last week against the Raiders, obviously they played against bad quarterback play. They had 3 interceptions. So this is a defense that's kind of all over the place, I would say. Not getting a ton of pass rush, like I said, but they're doing good stopping the run. They forced a few turnovers last week against the bad quarterback play, but I just don't really know what to expect from them against the high-powered offense in the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, the last 3 weeks they've given up 12, 19, and 20 points, which is a marked improvement from the stretch they had going of all those consecutive losses while allowing 25 or more points. The last 3 weeks, they're 19th in the league in opposer passer rating, which might not sound like much, but again, these guys were dead last for basically a calendar year.
Right.
They do have 4 picks in their last 3 games, 7 passing touchdowns allowed, just 6.4 yards per passing attempt, which is fourth in the league over the last 3 weeks. Um, yeah, I feel like maybe there's certainly been some incremental improvement there. Um, you know, these teams, both of them, there could be some before we get into our picks. There could be some live betting to just take a look at halftime. The Chargers over the last 4 weeks are 30th in the league in second half scoring. Um, Chicago hasn't really been much of a second half team as well in terms of scoring differential. Um, they're minus 32 on the season. But the Chargers, since halftime of that Raiders game where they were up, I think 24-0, that their second halves have been atrocious. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the finger injury with Herbert, and it starts to ache or become an issue through the game. But if this thing is close, there could be some opportunities to sprinkle on the Bears on the money line because I just don't have a lot of faith in Brandon Staley. And if this game is tight and the Chargers are at home, You know, you know what charging is, right? We all know what charging is. They have a way of losing football games. So if they can't exert any talent imbalance in the first half, you know, they tend to get worse as the games go on. But look, in terms of the sides, Ben, 9.5 is too many, I think, for any Brandon Staley operation to be laying. You know, their defense in LA is god awful. I mean, it's among the worst in the NFL. Uh, and they've only scored 4 offensive touchdowns in their last 10 quarters of play. So I don't see how a team like that, you know what I mean, can be a 10 point. Like they just, I can't. I got to take those points. You know, if I'm going to play the sides, I got to take those points.
Yeah, I fully agree. I'm probably one of Brandon Staley's biggest haters. I think the fact that he has all this talent and offense every year. I was a Herbert fan coming out. I thought he was really talented, good accuracy, and I just feel like obviously he struggled a little bit here and there, but I think his coach has really done awful for him. The going for it on fourth down inside your own 20. They got away with that. They wound up winning that game, but he does dumb stuff like that week in and week out and still has his job. He did a bunch of dumb stuff 2 years ago, last year. He's been awful since he's been there, and they just decided to hold him around. Um, a night tonight where like you said, I like the Bears plus 9.5 as well a lot. I'm actually we'll get into the totals in a second, but my best bet for in terms of sides and totals will be Bears points over. But I think when you look at what Brandon Staley has done on primetime, he's played because I mean, people don't see his 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. mistakes as much, but as
Yeah.
much as he's been on primetime, you see his mistakes right in front of everybody and it gets put out. And it feels like every time that team is on primetime, Brandon Staley is doing some dumb decision later in a game
Yes.
that has an awful impact on his team. So I think that'll come. And I like your point that you made about live betting them if it's tight or whatever on the money line. But I can't go with this Chargers team with him at head coach. I really thought he should have been gone after last year. They decided to hold on to him. They start this year off awful. Can't win any big games. That the team is not good. Like I mean
No.
the playoff loss last year should have been it in my opinion. I think when
Fireball offense. Yeah.
you're right, you're up 24 and you end up not winning the game. I think you should have been fired right then and there. So yeah, I just don't like that. But we'll get into the totals now. The game total set at 45.5. I stayed away from the game total, but I did take Bears team total over 17.5 points. I'm riding with Bayesian tonight. I think Bayesian had his first career start last week, kind of get the butterflies out of the stomach, get used to NFL play. Of course, he played Division II football at Shepherd. Actually, a couple of my college baseball teammates went to high school with him and played on his football team then. So I've always rooted for the kid.
Oh,
I know
wow.
him going through the scene. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They would always talk about him because he was setting records at D2 level. And then he actually visited Maryland last year. Sorry to get a little bit out of it, but he visited Maryland last year. And Maryland
Yeah.
thought they were going to bring him in to sit under Talia Tagovailoa for the year. And then Talia was going to leave this year, and Bayesian would have started at Maryland this year. Bayesian decided to just go back to Shepherd,
Wow.
spend one more year there, and now it's worked out for him.
Good for him.
Starting quarterback in the NFL now. So, I mean, it's been a crazy, all over the place ride for him. But he's starting a game tonight, and like I said, I'm going with him scoring. I mean, 18 points. I think they could score 3 touchdowns. I think that defense could get a touchdown themselves. It wouldn't surprise me to see that. Like I said, the linebackers are playing better. Secondary's playing better. You got to get some pressure on the quarterback. That's the only thing that kind of scares me. But I think this offense has success against the Chargers defense, who only can stop the run. I mean, against the pass, the Chargers are one of the worst in the NFL. They're 31st in total yards allowed, 32nd in passing yards. Like I said, they're pretty good against the run, 10th or 11th in rushing yards, but they're allowing 25 points per game to opponents. And everybody looks at this Bears offense with Bayesian starting and kind of says, young quarterback. But to me, it's not his first, like it's his second career start. He already had his first career start where you can get kind of the nerves and everything out of it. This is his second career start. Obviously, it's prime time, a little different, but this is the perfect defense you want to go against as a quarterback to try to build some confidence.
Yeah, I in terms of playing a total, I'll just take the game over. Um, I mean, yeah, the Chargers allow 310 passing yards a game. Uh, they allow over 8 yards per completion. That's dead last. They allow an opposer passer rating of 105.6. That's last in the NFL. Like you said, they're league average against the run, 3.9 per carry. But that secondary and just their overall approach seems to be pretty broken, and everybody can have a field day at their expense. And on the other side, as much as we're talking about the Bears making incremental progress on defense, and they are, I still don't buy Matt Eberflus either. He's probably going to get fired too. And if you go back since the start of last year, the Browns are allowing over 29 points a game on the road. So I'm leaning into, we've seen some primetime games that are sort of ugly and weird in terms of nobody being able to score the football. I think this one could be ugly and weird in that you're seeing blown assignments, you're seeing bad tackling, you're seeing poor enough defense that makes these offenses look good. So, yeah, if I'm going to take all those points, and I'm going to take the over.
And to your point about the Bears, even on the primetime game they played earlier in the year against the Commanders, I mean, Sam Howell threw for, I think, career high, like 395 yards against them. So what can Herbert do against a defense like that?
Yeah.
But now jumping into some props. We'll start with the Bears. I got 2 Bears props. I got 2 props for each team. My first prop, DJ Moore over 60.5 receiving yards. I think that's way too low of a line. He had 9 targets in Bajan's first start. So Bajan obviously wants to get the ball to the number 1 wide receiver. Number 1 wide receivers have killed the Chargers all year. CeeDee Lamb 2 weeks ago, I think, went for 100, or it was last week, or I think 2 weeks ago, 100 plus receiving yards. Justin Jefferson went for like 130. Devontae Adams 75. You might want to put these guys a little bit ahead of DJ Moore in skill set, but when you, in terms of what these receivers mean to their team, nobody on the Bears offense is anywhere near DJ Moore's ability at wide receiver. I mean, nobody is what DJ Moore is to this offense. Seeing him get 9 targets last week, obviously he went under the total, but he had like 53 receiving yards. So 8 more yards against a much worse passing defense. I'll take that any day of the week. So I think DJ Moore, honestly, if you guys want a big money play, take 100 plus, probably plus 250 or higher. I would try that. I'm going just 60.5, playing it safe. But if you want a big money play, I mean, 100 plus receiving yards for DJ Moore wouldn't surprise me at all. And you saw what he did against the Commanders on prime time, where he went for whatever 200 plus, I think it was. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
But then my second prop, Tyson Bagent over 193.5 passing yards. This is a play that probably nobody wants to take. Like I said before, a lot of people are like, the young quarterback, kind of a little weary on him. He already had his first career start. Like I said, he's locked in now. He gets, like I said, the best possible matchup he could for a quarterback making a primetime start. Threw it 29 times in his debut. I think he throws more this week. They'll allow him to air it out on prime time. I think they're going to have to allow him to air it out, because to beat this Chargers team, as much as the dumb decisions by the coach, you have to score points. You're going to have to put some points up. You're going to have to play it quick. You're not going to be able to slow the game down with the run game, because they'll be able to stop that. So my 2 plays, DJ Moore, 60.5 receiving yards, and Tyson Bagent over 193.5 passing yards.
Yeah, on the Bears side, I'm going to do 2 plays on the same player. I like the way they ran the ball with Foreman. And I think they're going to have, with a quarterback that young, there's going to have to be some intent. And as much as the Chargers defense isn't as bad stopping the run as the pass, I've seen Brandon Staley's teams have terrible run fits and be out of sorts up front over the years as well. So I think Foreman's running the ball over 12 and at least 13 times in this game. And I think he's going over 46.5 yards on the ground. I don't know that this Chargers unit is markedly better than the Raiders up front. And yeah, it's a little different, home and road, and I get that. But I just can't think that the Bears are going to put this kid in his first road start, right, the quarterback, and not at least show some stick-with-itness with the run game. And for me right now, as presently constructed, Foreman's the best option there.
Yeah, I mean, Roshan Johnson will be back, but that's off of a concussion. Obviously, you don't want to give him a ton of touches. The Chargers props next. Austin Eckler over 34.5 receiving yards. This is one of my favorite plays from the night. The Bears are allowing close to 60 receiving yards per game to running backs. Eckler's obviously, as everybody knows, one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. He's gone over this in 2 of the 3 games he's played in this year. He's coming off of a game where he had just 1 catch. Gerald Everett's out, obviously tight end position, but that's been a guy who Herbert's looked to a lot, kind of some short dump off throws. Eckler might be taking some of those receptions away from that. So I think Eckler can go over this. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to see them, kind of the Bears, get all out of sorts in coverage and Eckler have a 50-plus yard reception on a short pass. So I'm going Eckler over 34.5 receiving yards. Like I said, I just don't think the Bears will be able to stop him in the passing game. And then another one I hit for this last Monday, a sack prop, Joey Bosa to record a sack. He's been really quiet lately. He started the season with 2 sacks in his first 3 games, I believe. And he's just kind of been kind of quiet. I think he's only got like 2 pressures in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But this is the offensive line to build that confidence against. Like I said before, they got 2 or 3 starters out. They're kind of still trying to find themselves. And young quarterback, I said, I'm trusting him. I'm trusting his passing yards. But a young quarterback sometimes holds the ball too long, doesn't really know how much time he has, where you've only made two appearances in a real NFL game. You're more used to college. So I'll take Joey Bosa to get home and record a sack at plus 122.
Yeah, look, you read my mind on the Eckler one. I just don't see how he's not a massive part of this game plan. The last couple weeks, it almost looks like him being available has kind of thrown them off, because he's got 33 touches and 108 scrimmage yards and no touchdowns. But it's him and Keenan Allen. That is their offense right now. And there should be plenty of volume for both. And against the Bears defense, that leaves a lot to be desired. And with his wiggle, that number feels low to me as well. And look, he probably goes over his 13 and a half carries too. But I'm with you. I'm going to play it on the receiving side. I'm going to play Justin Herbert to throw an interception plus 115. I actually played this in the middle of the week at plus 130. His last 3 games, he's completing 57.1% of his passes for 218 yards per game, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a rating of 75.9. If we think that defense is bad enough that the Bears are going to score, right? I mean, how patient are the Chargers going to be with their run game, right? It's been fits and starts forever. I think Justin Herbert's going to have to throw a lot of passes. And we kind of know who the passes are going to, because you look at their target share, and it is what it is, especially when you take Everett out. So I think somebody's jumping a route, Eddie Jackson or somebody, and Herbert's ball accuracy hasn't been the same. And again, especially in the second half of games, his productivity has really started to wane. So for that kind of return, again, he's done it 4 times his last 3 games. Herbert to throw a pick, and I'm with you on the Eckler over his receiving yards.
Anything else you have before I jump into 2 quick NBA plays and wrap this one up?
I would just say tomorrow, I've got a lot of Lions parlays correlated to them scoring over 30 points. I just think this is a terrible matchup for the Raiders. And I think the Lions are going to beat the Raiders the way the Lions got beat by the Ravens last weekend. So you could start building around Jared Goff to go way over the 270, sprinkle in some alternates of Goff going over 300. I think Gibbs will have a big day catching the ball. Laporta will go over his total. Again, I think the Lions score over 30 points, and it would not surprise me at all if they win that game by more than 2 touchdowns. Remember, they won 4 straight games by 14 points or more before they ran into that Ravens buzzsaw. So I don't think you and I are going to be able to get together Monday night, but I like the Lions to go over their team total big time. I also like them to cover, but I don't like it as much as the team total. And again, they're key offensive players, I think, especially Gibbs, Laporta, Goff, probably St. Brown too, go over.
Yeah, I fully agree that I'm going to be putting a lot of money on the Lions tomorrow night. I think they're at 7.5 now. Really just think like there's times where like the better NFL teams show up against a team like they did against the Ravens last week and fall, and then everybody's like, all right, well, that team just wasn't as good. I still think the Lions are very good. I think it got to a point in the Ravens game where they were just done. Like you're down 28-0 looking up at the score.
Yep.
You don't want to show all your cards at that point. You really have no chance as it is. So you're not going to obviously you want to fight back in the game, but you're not going to show all your cards to get back into that one where I think maybe in a playoff game, we see a little bit more fight in a closer game. But now jumping to the NBA before we wrap this up, I just got 2 quick plays. LeBron James, same game in the Kings-Lakers game tonight, both points. LeBron James over 21.5 points and Domantas Sabonis over 18.5 points. LeBron has been on a minutes restriction, and that's kind of kept a lot of people away from his points. But the last game, I think in the last 4 minutes, he scored like 8 or 9 points. Still went under his total, but I think LeBron slowly getting that touch back. Obviously, he's a little bit older now. It's going to take him a few games to get back to middle of the season form. But I think tonight, big game against a team who one of the better teams in the Western Conference. He's going to want to prove himself. He's going to want to show well. So I'm going to take LeBron over 21.5 points, even in his 25 or whatever minutes he's playing tonight. I still think he goes over the total. And then Sabonis over 18.5 points. This is one where like Sabonis is just so streaky. I mean, the guy will go for 11 points one game and then have 35 and a triple-double the next.
Yeah.
So you never really know
Yeah.
what to expect from him. But the Lakers are not very good against power forwards. Defensively, I think they're allowing like the second most at like 28 points per game. And then I was going to take earlier in the week De'Aaron Fox points against the Lakers. I had it set for this night. Hadn't seen the line yet, hadn't seen what he was at, but I was just so confident the Lakers were struggling against point guards. And then Gabe Vincent comes out the other night, plays 25 minutes or 20, 28 minutes, something like that, and played really well on defense. So I think De'Aaron Fox might be – he still could go over his total, but I'm sticking with Sabonis instead just because I think the Lakers are slowly starting to figure out how to defend the point guard defensively. But, yeah, those are the two plays. Sabonis at 18.5 points and then LeBron 21.5 points. Just really like those tonight. That's it. I was looking at some other things. Didn't want to force anything because there's nothing I love that much. But that's what I'm going with tonight. And we appreciate you guys watching. Not sure if it will be Thursday or Sunday. Probably Sunday that we'll be back here going live. It's just some stuff going on right now, but we're going to figure it out. We'll be getting more and more shows out and continue to give you guys the best picks we have for these primetime matchups. And and real quick before I end it, remember to subscribe. We need you guys to subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost money. Subscribe. It's free thing. It's not one of the other apps. You don't have to pay to do it. Subscribe. Give us a subscription. I mean, we're doing this at least once a week, giving out best plays and just kind of talking football.